Microphone check, microphone check. Sounds pristine today. Mic check from you?
Check.
Yeah. And we are back once again with the ATP podcast. It's your boy Jay in the building. This is episode 195. Yeah, this is episode 195. We got Fig GPT here in the building as well. And yeah, for those of you who follow us on YouTube, we did spring up some bonus content that didn't make it on Spotify. But we did talk a little bit about the upsets with Alcaraz, Novak Djokovic, because we felt it was a little time sensitive and urgent. But yeah, for those of you who listen on podcast platforms exclusively, subscribe on YouTube and make sure you don't miss that kind of stuff. Outside of that, though, how you feeling, man?
Good. Tail end of the U.S. Open. A lot of great news for American tennis. That hasn't been done in a long time.
Yes.
So it should be an exciting podcast if you're an American U.S. Fan.
I'd like to think I am. Yeah?
Well, I don't know. You wanted Grigor to win, so I don't know.
That was my fan pick for sure. But
yes.
I like American tennis. We'll dig into it a bit a little later. But where do you want to start?
Yes, we're going to start with Chris Evert making a comment of semifinalist Muchova. So if you don't know who she is, she's consistently making deep runs. She beat Sabalenka in the French Open, played in the final, made a couple of U.S. Open semis. So if you don't know who she is, you need to pay attention to her by now.
Yeah. But
she was playing lights out in a round, and then Chris Evert made a comment by saying she plays like a guy. She wants to play like a guy. The guys have bigger serves than the women. They have better volleys for the most part. They move a little bit better. Which Ons Jabeur did not appreciate that comment and says, why does she have to play like a guy?
Yeah.
I don't think that's the characteristic of playing like a guy. What are your thoughts on Chris Evert's comment?
I mean, I guess we could try to make this a gender-sensitive topic, but in my opinion, there's a way that the men on the ATP Tour play, and there's a way that most women on the WTA Tour play. This is facts. Most of the women hit flatter. Most of the men hit spinnier. Most of the men, because they hit spinnier, they open up the court a lot more than most of the women do. Thus, you see more court coverage on the men's side. And then there's the undeniable testosterone, right? Which is being able to rely on faster twitch motions, more muscle, more strength, more explosiveness. So she's not in the wrong to say that a woman is attempting to, maybe you can say it's insulting to say trying or attempting to, but maybe she's saying, hey, she's using more spin. She's relying on fast twitch motions. She's hitting more spin than flat on her strokes and trying to open up the court. I would go as far as saying some of these aspects are in Iga's game, and I wouldn't have been mad if she had said that about Iga. So, yeah, I don't think it's something that should be taken personally, but I think if you want to make any of this seem a little insulting, it's her saying she's trying to do it instead of just saying she's doing it, Obviously, if you're playing the topspin game, the aggressive game, you're coming forward, you're serving hard, you're playing like the ATP Tour guys.
Right.
You're not trying, you are, so that's my only niche or issue there. But yes, I like it.
I would say that Iga, if you're trying to compare, since you just brought up spin, she's the only one that pretty much hits with heavy spin, like a guy, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So, as you stated, they hit flatter. So, I don't know what that statement was about, but just sometimes Chris Evert says stuff like that.
Yeah. Maybe it's the wording that's wrong, but the message is there.
Right. She also made a comment about Osaka's attire representing Japanese style or whatever, and people just went off on her. Not going to get into that, but yeah it's just comments that she probably needs to think about more before making them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now we're going to get to Paolini. She has the most singles Grand Slam wins in this year with 17 in 2024.
2 big runs in a row in the last 2 slams.
Correct.
That makes total
sense. As you know, French Open, deep run. Wimbledon, deep run. Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts on the rise of Paolini?
She's having the kind of year that you really got to think, wow, she did that on clay. She did that on grass. She's shown what she can do on hard. This is someone that you should really keep an eye on for the next coming years. But also on the flip side, I'm very interested to see what coaches and teams are doing when they analyze her game moving forward, because she's really kind of struck the scene in a very major way. And I think a lot of people are going to take her much more seriously than they did prior. And I'm very curious if this is going to be a reason that her game gets kind of nullified and neutralized, right? Or is this going to be a moment where we see how resilient she really is? So this is a great opportunity for us to experience Paolini next year.
Yes, you nailed it. She's fresh in the scene, but now she's a threat. So now she will be studied for sure. So once she passes that test, then we'll see if she's a contender more.
Long term.
Yes. So a little bit of Badosa news. She's the 4th Spanish woman to reach the U.S. Open quarterfinals in the Open era. Arantxa Sanchez, Conchita Martinez, and Suarez Navarro were the other 3. Badosa did make a deep-ish run. She was going to retire as well because she was struggling. As you know, she kept not quitting, but retiring in a lot of her tournaments because of ailments. But she made a deep run at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, she did.
So what are your thoughts on Badosa?
To me, she looks fresh. She looks like she's making a major comeback as a player. You know, she's been on point the last quarter, and I think that this is probably going to make her second think that retirement. So I expect more from her. I expect more good things, and I haven't looked at the WTA finals runnings, but I wouldn't be surprised if she's within contention for the final group.
Yes, that is possible.
Yeah.
But now the big news is that this is the first Grand Slam to feature 2 American men and women. If you just saw Pegula just beat Iga a couple hours ago.
Woo!
She was 0-6 in quarterfinals until winning today.
Against the
world number 1. So that was huge. The last time that was done again, 2003. And those 4 participants were Capriati, Davenport, Andy Roddick, and Andre Agassi. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, huge news for Pegula. Unfortunate for Iga, but this is the slam that we usually expect her to be a little spotty. This is crazy. Pegula is really making a run that we all knew was possible, and we were all just waiting for her to make it click and figure it out. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this run from her. Honestly, it's possible. It can happen at this slam for her. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what she can do.
Yes, she's made good runs in 1000s, but always struggled in the Grand Slams.
Yeah.
So it was great to see her finally make a run in a Grand Slam.
Yeah.
So now we're going to get to Sabalenka, who's the other semifinalist and was the heavy favorite to win, to coming in anyway.
Yeah.
She is the first to reach 4 consecutive U.S. Open singles quarterfinals since Serena.
Ooh.
In 2016. Big hitter, pretty much plays similar-ish to Serena. What are your thoughts on Sabalenka?
Yeah, she's my personal favorite to win the U.S. Open for the women as far as odds go. And if she does, I'll be happy for her. If we see Pegula pull it out, that would be an incredible story as well. But, you know, I'm really wondering if this is Sabalenka rounding herself out to be the next world number 1. You know, she can find a way to make noise at all the slams Iga doesn't, and then it turns into a war of who can win the intangibles in between, you know. So this is exciting because she's really on the heels of Iga. She really is right now.
Oh, for sure. And she beat her pretty bad in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
So, yes, you're right. Outside of clay, and even on clay, she does give her a hard time. But in the other tournaments where Iga's not, Sabalenka is right there. So
yeah.
I see her overtaking the number 1 real quick. But in then one of the matches, a commentator showed her the stats of how hard she's hitting. We covered this, but it's a continued story. And she said, I didn't realize or didn't believe that I hit that fast. And then she said it felt uncomfortable to see that I'm hitting harder than the guys. Do you buy that she felt uncomfortable that she's hitting harder than the guys?
I believe that she probably does feel that if she didn't see the stats, she wouldn't have assumed she's doing that. But, I mean, the fact of the matter is she hits flatter than they do, you know? It's a very different ball. 90 miles an hour with topspin is not the same as 90 miles an hour flat. It's two very different balls. But to be able to generate that much, her average speed, that means all her strokes through a match, the average pace of a forehand, being that fast, I don't care who you are. To be able to hit that high risk and be winning and that dominant, she is a freak athlete for that. And it's an incredible feat. I don't really like the cross comparison between genders, though, because of the way the game's played a little different, right?
Yes.
You know, and depending on the tournament you're at, the balls may be different. So it's interesting, but I still think it's a fun statistic, and I think it gives some really good perspective on how much faster a flat ball can go, and the fact that there's a reason the men's tour is not hitting every ball flat. You know, hitting flat is tough to win with, just hitting flat, and she's doing that. So that to me is an unspoken part of how impressive her stat is. So kudos to her.
I guess she backed up her claim of when she made the perfect player that she hit with the most power of anybody. So I guess she's backing that up.
Yeah, this helps her case for sure.
Yes, and now this to me is weird, but average topspin forehand speed first two rounds of the Open. Djokovic was 76 miles an hour. Sinner was 78. Alcaraz was 79, and Sabalenka was 80. Now, she doesn't hit with the top that jumps up.
Yeah.
It's more the one that goes in to you faster.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, she essentially hits a flatter topspin ball, if that makes sense.
Yes.
She's more so scalping the ball, while a lot of players are brushing up the ball. You know, they're hitting up the ball instead of kind of through the ball when they're hitting a lot of their shots. And yeah, you're right. That ball it's going to pierce more. It's going to penetrate more. It's going to shoot forward. It's a great ball. And a lot of the guys use that ball, but only to end a rally or hit an approach shot. They use it for very particular scenarios. It's not a traditional rally ball.
Right.
So, you know, that's pretty crazy that she's using that ball as a rally ball. Yeah, to me, Sabalenka is getting more and more impressive. So, crazy statistic.
Yes, that is for sure. And she is 16-1 in Grand Slam matches this year. Paolini is 17, but Sabalenka didn't play Wimbledon. So that's a very impressive stat for Sabalenka.
That is.
Now she is playing Navarro, who also is having the year of her life, along with Paolini. Navarro did beat Sabalenka at Indian Wells. Do you think that Sabalenka will avenge the loss?
Yeah, I actually do think so. The U.S. Open is faster than Indian Wells. I think U.S. Open conditions suit Sabalenka more than Indian Wells conditions do. And I also think she's coming in with very high confidence. She's reading statistics that show how amazing she is. She's on a hot streak. She's beating rivals. This is a great time to be Sabalenka. I think that the odds are highly in her favor. And although I think it's going to be a tough match, probably split sets, I'm leaning towards Sabalenka.
Yes, I agree this time. I think Sabalenka will avenge the loss. Indian Wells is a slower, fast court. And this time, her ball is definitely going to penetrate through the court. So I believe Sabalenka will win. And a fun stat here. First time in the Open era that there has been a rematch of a Australian Open final later on in the year, which happened at the U.S. Open. Sabalenka destroyed Qin Wen and Medvedev and Sinner. What do you think of that?
That's very interesting. What do you think about the rematch odds? Do you think that players should it be the same outcome as last time, or do you think things can be different this time?
They could be different, especially on surfaces. With Medvedev and Sinner, it was going to be there because of the way they're seated.
Yeah.
They've drawn each other a lot.
Yeah.
So it was going to be there.
Yeah.
So, but with Sabalenka and Qin Wen, it's a little different. So, and now to me, the very interesting story here. Everybody's chiming in. Former players, your what you call coach, your coaches online, Coco Gauff. She had an astronomical amount of double faults in her loss against Navarro. It was a ton. I believe it was 19. If you want to check that for me, please.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
Yes, so I believe it was 19. But a lot of people are chiming in. So as you know, Brad Gilbert works.
19.
Okay, I was correct. So Brad Gilbert does work for ESPN as an analyst. So Renee Stubbs, she's known for coaching Serena for 2 seasons, but whatever. Serena's former coach was laying into Brad Gilbert, and he didn't see it coming. He was all, I could go into him. He's right there, but he just has to hear this. I'm synopsing what she said. But she said, yes, bad technique tendencies come out when you're nervous. They need to be fixed. Right in front of Brad Gilbert, and he's just sitting there and, where did that come from? Then you had Serena being asked, well, what do you think of Coco Gauff? She just needs to get confidence. As soon as she gets confidence, she's going to win more matches. So what side are you on? Confidence or fixing technique?
So in the case of Coco Gauff, I hate to be that guy who floats in the middle, but it is a combination of both, right? It's are there some technical things that could make her one of the most dominant players on the tour that she needs to fix? Yes, for sure. I'd go as far as saying it's her forehand and her serve.
Right.
Can she win more slams without that? That's kind of what the looming question you didn't ask is. And the answer is yes. If she went in with the level of confidence I think she doesn't have, maybe she would be less nervous, meaning the bad technique doesn't show up as much, right? She's saying that bad technique rises when you're nervous and anxious. What if you weren't nervous and anxious and you believed you were going to win it? Do we know any players in the top 10, men or women, that don't have pretty technique but make it happen? Yes. Francis Tiafoe, Daniil Medvedev. There's a few guys that strokes are unorthodox.
Right.
But they have full faith in their game.
Correct.
And it shows when they play. I think that Coco Gauff could learn from them and probably find a little more success in high tension, high anxiety moments. But at the end of the day, how did Novak Djokovic get to where he's at? Working on the serve.
Right.
Cleaning up the footwork. That's how you become a GOAT, right? So it goes both ways, like we're saying, but I think she could win more slams with just fixing this.
Brad Gilbert did say from the get-go that he wasn't going to fix her forehand, and I actually agree. It would take a long time to fix the forehand mechanics that she's brought.
Yeah.
And she's used them from childhood.
Yeah.
So it would be hard to break those mechanics down.
Yeah.
As you just stated, Medvedev, he's not the textbook guy.
Yeah.
Serena, for example, her backhand, she would break her wrist to get topspin on the ball.
Yeah.
That's not really textbook.
Yeah.
A lot of the time she swings up or swinged up on the backhand instead of out.
Yeah.
So, but her mental is strong.
Yeah.
So I agree there. But
Yeah.
on the serve, you've had Iga work on her serve. Sabalenka, who was hitting 17 double faults in matches, and look at her serve now.
Yeah.
So I do believe, yes, that the technique on her serve needs to get fixed if she wants to win matches for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's half the match.
Yes.
So it's a big deal.
Yes. And then, I don't know if this is the interesting or the funny part, Nick Kyrgios, I don't know, jokingly or not, offers to coach Coco Gauff. Would you accept if you're Coco Gauff?
If you want me to be totally honest, I would not accept. I think Nick Kyrgios probably has top 3 serves on the planet right now, active on the tour. You got to put quotes on even that part, right?
Yeah.
But I think he's a lot of natural talent, and I don't think natural talents are the best coaches. I think that people who had to really work for it and learn how to be a great server, not just show up and it's one of their natural gifts, you know. I think someone like a Djokovic would probably be a better source of inspiration and coaching for her, because Djokovic didn't have a dominant serve when he came to the tour. In fact, it took him 6 to 8 years for us to really speak about how great of a server he is.
Yes.
So, you know, I think that Kyrgios is not the guy. Kyrgios is... We have a friend that's super talented at tennis. We talk about where he says, just do it. Just do this. And, you know, he just shows you, just be like me. We can't, you know, we have to work for it. We have to work harder. Yes. We have to talk about the small details and the mechanics. Not every player on the tour worked that hard at the mechanics.
That's true.
And some really did. You know, some are supernatural. Some are very stylish. Some are fluid naturally. Other players had to grind their teeth and make it happen with hard work and practice. I think Coco Gauff needs a player like that to work on her serve.
I agree. And although she can serve 120 miles an hour, her second serve to me is problematic. She doesn't have a consistent pace. And when she does try to top spin or kick serve, the ball lands right in the middle, ready to get crushed. Yeah. And that's how Sabalenka beat her.
Yeah.
So she needs a consistency on the serve. And until she doesn't, she's not going to win another slam. I don't think so.
Yeah, I understand that.
So now we're going to go to the men. A couple of stats of Djokovic. He reached a milestone before his loss. He reached 90 wins at the U.S. Open. He now has 90 wins in all 4 Grand Slams.
Crazy stat.
What are your thoughts on that?
That is a crazy statistic. To have 90 wins in any event is pretty crazy. So, yeah, this just speaks to his longevity and consistency. I'm very curious to see what his longevity and consistency will bring to us next year, because this was a rough year if you're Novak Djokovic, statistically speaking. So hopefully it doesn't seem that his health is compromised. So I'm very curious what his mental health is going to be like and how he'll come forward next year.
Right. And he's had probably the roughest time at the U.S. Open. Obviously, he couldn't play because of COVID. I in my opinion, here's where he probably performs the worst. But yeah, I mean, that's a big milestone.
Yeah.
But here are the leaders all time, men and women. 108 wins, Serena Williams. 101, Chris Evert. 98, Jimmy Connors.
This is at the U.S. Open.
At the U.S. Open, yes. Djokovic 90. Federer 89. And Navratilova 89.
Wow.
Want to speak on that?
Yeah, you're in great company. Mind-blowing numbers from the Serenas of the world and stuff like that. And this, you know what makes all this really give me perspective? Out of all these players, to me, Djokovic is the only one who kind of got gypped out of a few slams.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he's supposed to be a little further ahead.
Right.
Because there was definitely at least 2 years where he wasn't able to play. And I think that he would have, with the way he had been playing, at least made semis.
Right.
So, yeah, that's huge.
And then when he hit the umpire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, he got gypped out of that. Gypped, quote unquote.
Right.
COVID. Yeah, there's a lot of different things. So, yeah, I think his statistics could be a lot crazier, and we got to keep that in mind.
Exactly. And the honorary mention, Andre Agassi, 79 wins at the U.S. Open.
Nice.
So I thought that was pretty cool. So now we're going to get to players to reach quarterfinals of all 4 slams in a season. Yannick Sinner just joined that list.
That can't be a very long list.
It's pretty kind of long.
Okay,
you have Andre in 2001.
Okay.
The Stanimal in 2015.
Okay.
David Ferrer.
Not surprised. I'm not surprised.
12 and 13.
Nice.
Murray did it 4 years.
Not surprised.
Nadal did it 5 years. Federer 2 years. 05 and 012 or 2012.
Only 2 years he made it to quarters of all
in all 4.
All 4. I thought he went to the French quarters a couple of times.
And then Djokovic 4 years, 10 through 15, 21, 23.
Wow. I'm a little surprised by the Federer.
My apologies. It's 5 through 12.
For Federer?
For Federer.
Okay,
Yes.
that
Yes.
makes more sense. Okay.
Yes.
I was going to say, really? For
Yes.
Federer? I remember him doing it, but okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, that is elite company. Elite company. So Yannick Sinner, I guess my question for you is, how many years do you think he can do it? If you were to just spitball an idea of a number, who would you compare him to? An Agassi, a Federer, a Djokovic, a Nadal?
I think he could do Nadal.
Yeah, Nadal numbers.
Yeah, Nadal numbers, I believe.
Okay.
If he stays healthy, doesn't allow this cloud over his head to really get to him, I think he could do it.
Okay.
So I thought that was a cool stat. And then this is actually a really good stat. The U.S. Open has had a different men's number one seed in each of the past 4 years. So you're accustomed to having a certain number one,
Yeah.
and not be the WTA where you have different winners. But at the U.S. Open, there's been different number one seeds for the past 4 years.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts there?
I don't like that statistic. Let's talk about how many years Djokovic was the world number one and didn't play there, and then see how many years is it really? 2 years maybe? So, yeah, I don't think that statistic's very mind-blowing. I think that the U.S. Open is the most volatile slam, though. I do agree there. I feel like Wimbledon, we had a very stable time with Federer and the big three in general. Obviously, Australian Open, Djokovic has kind of monopolized it. And then we had the French Open with the clay. So the U.S. Open was the one where we always went, if someone's going to break through this year, this is probably where it would be. And that was Del Potro, Dominic Thiem, obviously Alcaraz, stuff like that. So, yeah, the U.S. Open is the most volatile slam, but I don't think that statistic really speaks to it the way it should.
Yes. And I'll just read the different seeds within a 4-year span. So in 2001, Gustavo Kuerten was the one seed. In 2002, it was Hewitt. 2003, it was Agassi. And then 2004 was Federer. And then, as you know, Federer ended up being one seed a lot.
Yeah.
Then in 2001, it was Djokovic. 2022, it was Medvedev. 23, Alcaraz. And 24, Sinner.
Wow. Okay. At least that's a solid 4.
Yeah.
That's a solid 4.
And now we're going to get to the Greek philosopher. We can't miss him. So he made a statement and he said, "I'm nothing compared to the player that I used to be. I remember myself playing when I was younger, playing with adrenaline on court."
Who's saying this?
Stephanos, the Greek philosopher.
Oh, I did hear this. Okay,
Yes.
keep going.
Feeling like my life depends on the match. And these things, I feel like they have faded off. What do you think on Stephanos?
I mean, we kind of spoke to this prior, but I mean, it's not a talent issue with Stephanos. It's all in the head. Struggling with his box, struggling with himself, struggling with intensity, struggling with motivation. Maybe I can't speak to what he does off court too much, but maybe struggling with discipline. Now he's got a relationship as well with a pro tennis player.
Right.
Just a lot of things taking away from the mission and having tunnel vision, right? We see a lot of pros that almost seem like they're locked in tunnel vision, and if they do have a romantic partner, that romantic partner has to enter the tunnel with them, and be on their journey with them. It can't be two different journeys going at the same time. I think of Federer and Mirka. I think of, Djokovic and his wife, who is pretty much part of the Djokovic Foundation, right? She's a part of his journey. Or on the flip side, maybe the Nadals of the world, where you don't really hear anything about their partner because they are not going to go out of their way to impact their journey. Tsitsipas is more like the Gael Monfils, right? He's with a partner who is a professional tennis player on their own journey, and they can't really help you with your journey. They can only focus on their own.
Right.
And usually one player does very well and the other doesn't. From what I've seen with this, right? I recall Sharapova dating Dimitrov at one point.
Yes.
There's been a lot of these. So I've never seen two tennis players as a couple both super dominant on the tour at the same time. I don't know if you have, but I can't think of it at the same time. Agassi? Maybe that's the last time. Yeah, that's probably the closest to it. So maybe he needs to have a conversation with Agassi.
Yeah, there you go.
and figure it out.
Yes.
But yeah, Tsitsipas is going through it, and to be totally honest with you, it seems like what he needs to do to solve these problems are going to happen off the court.
He needs a player's coach. Philippoussis would be great again. Now that he's determined that Dad is going to stay the dad role.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a good choice. Quick shout out to Zverev, who lost to Fritz, but he earned his 100th Grand Slam match victory.
Nice.
So, and he had the second longest night match, ending at 2:35 a.m. Alcaraz and Sinner ended at 2:50. That was the match with Echeverry.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Zverev was my dark horse for this event. I thought he was the guy to watch out for and the guy that was going to sneak his way all the way to the final. I'm genuinely surprised. Not upset, but genuinely surprised he lost that match to Fritz because it just seemed like he had it all locked in. So really big shout out to Fritz for what he did. But yeah, Zverev has been extremely consistent after recovering from his injury and has had a great year.
He has.
Heartbreaking losses, but he'll be okay.
Yes, but he should have just kept his mouth shut. As you know, at Wimbledon, he lost, and he blamed that he was a little injured. This time he said, I'm not going to be injured. He still lost.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just best to just
keep the
mouth quiet, and then if you win, then say it.
Let the business do the talking. Let the
Right.
work talk, yeah.
So now that we covered that, now we're going to get to the American men.
Okay.
Nakashima had a great run. He advanced to the fourth round of the U.S. Open for the first time in his career. What are your thoughts on Nakashima?
I like Nakashima. I don't know where I see his ceiling at or where I see him ending up overall, but I'm a Nakashima fan. So huge shout out to him for his run. I didn't expect it, and this doesn't make me think there's going to be a bunch more of them, but I really love that this happened for him, and hopefully these extra points will impact his career further.
Yes.
We'll see better seeding, better results, and he can capitalize on this.
Yes, he's a good player, and now with these points, he'll be seeded a little higher, so where he wouldn't have to face top seeds in the third round and make a deeper run. And Fritz earned his 50th Grand Slam match victory, and he is the first American to reach the fourth round of all Grand Slams in the same calendar year since Andre in 03.
Wow.
What are your thoughts on the consistency of Taylor Fritz?
I'm a Taylor Fritz fan. I always talk about what makes him impressive because I don't think that the average eye really sees it, but he's just so good at striking the ball clean. I think he's the most underrated ball striker on the men's tour. This guy, it's like he sees a watermelon when he's out there on the baseline. He has a fairly extreme grip. He has an unorthodox swing in regards to great strikers. And he can tag a ball with his forehand and his backhand. And he can change direction pretty well also. And on top of all that, he's got a great serve.
Yes.
So I think that he's been flying under the radar just a bit. But people are starting to recognize now, oh, this guy is actually a rock solid threat from the ground. He just hits the ball so clean, but because of the way he hits the ball, maybe he doesn't get as much excitement from non-American fans. Maybe his results don't really scream out as loud because he doesn't have a lot of drama and storylines around him. But yeah, Fritz is someone to pay attention to. He's a threat.
Yes, they asked Tiafoe earlier in the tournament which American does he see winning, and although Korda is the dark horse, we said that Fritz is the consistent one.
Yeah.
So I think that he's going to be the one, honestly. And we'll get to that matchup in a bit. But this is the first time that 4 American men are in the U.S. Open fourth round back-to-back years since 2002, 2003. What are your thoughts on that? Paul, Tiafoe, Fritz, and Nakashima.
Great. Nakashima was the surprising one for me, but Paul is, to me, just retardedly athletic. He's so athletic, fast and strong and bouncy. And yeah, I'm not surprised he got there. I'm not surprised with Tiafoe. I'm not surprised with Fritz. Nakashima did surprise me, although he is a good player. So this is awesome. I love it. I love to see it. And it's unusual because this is kind of what we were expecting from the women's side in American tennis. So for all the guys to kind of pack together and perform, it's pretty cool.
Yes, exactly. I'll get to the big question later on, but more stats on Tiafoe. The only American men to play in 3+ U.S. Open singles quarterfinals since 2000.
Woof.
So you have Roddick, Agassi, Sampras, and now Frances Tiafoe. Elite company.
Very.
What are your thoughts there?
This is a guy who just plays great under pressure and big moments. I feel like his level increases when the stakes are high and he's on a big stage. He does not play like this at the little 250s or the 500s in Rome or something, or it's a 1000. But when he's in front of his people on a big stage with the crowd behind him, I'd go as far as saying his UTR rating goes up like 2 points. I just think he becomes a better player. So yeah, this is if there's a place to fear Tiafoe, it is at the U.S. Open. That's my thoughts.
And I can't get over this. I keep saying it on the podcast, but he's not clowning around anymore. So consecutive first-time American semifinalists. We've had 3 in a row the past 3 U.S. Opens. Tiafoe in 2022, Ben Shelton, and now Taylor Fritz.
Nice.
So that is pretty impressive as well. So, and then the big one is first All-American men's U.S. Open semifinal since 2005. I believe that one is Agassi versus Ginepri. Don't quote me on that one, but that's what I think it is. What are your thoughts on that semifinal? First time since 05.
It's impressive. I'm curious to see how it plays out because what they're special at is very similar but very different, right? Obviously, we know one of them, to me, is the premium ball striker of the two, being Fritz. But one of them, to me, is an underrated point construction player. Tiafoe is so talented and a natural at knowing when to come forward and cut off the shots, make rallies shorter, and move forward very naturally. It's natural for him to come forward. Most of the players on the tour, including the very, very top guys, aren't so instinctual with how to end a point and make it shorter. So this is going to be a clash of, will Taylor Fritz be passing Tiafoe as he comes forward, or will Tiafoe be ending points early enough that the ball striking doesn't come into play as much as it should? And the very big thing, Taylor Fritz's first serve versus Tiafoe being kind of hot this whole tournament with his return.
Correct.
Which will overpower the other, because the Taylor Fritz serve, if he's getting a lot of first serves in play, 135 hitting lines and stuff like that, this could be a very interesting matchup. This could be straight sets or a 5-setter.
Yeah, I agree. They both have big serves. It's going to come down to returning big targets. Honestly, Fritz's backhand is solid.
It is.
So he has to open up the court, maybe do a 2-2-1 or a 1-2-1 combo in order to have Fritz on the run.
Yeah.
But he can't just exchange backhand to backhand with Taylor Fritz.
Yeah, he can't. He'll lose that rally.
Yes, Zverev, to me, has probably one of the best backhands in the game.
Yeah.
And he was out rallying Zverev.
He was.
So he needs to get out of that combo if he wants to win this match.
Yeah.
So now Tiafoe has not beaten Fritz. A very lopsided head-to-head. So who are you picking?
I mean, to be honest with you, I'm probably going Fritz, but let's talk about the intangibles, right? Which are, how were their last matches each? Fritz just spent a lot more time on court. Do we think that that's going to impact them? Tiafoe's match kind of coming up short with a Dimitrov walkover, and Fritz having a bit more of an extended match. I think he had 2 tiebreakers in that match, and playing a full 4. Do we think that that will make a difference?
Can you repeat the last part again?
So Taylor Fritz, 4 sets total, 2 tiebreakers, a lot more time on court. Tiafoe, 4 sets, but the last one was just 5 games. It was a walkover. Tiafoe's going to be coming in probably fresher court time wise. What are your thoughts there? Does it matter?
I don't think it does. Fritz has been in this situation, and they have a day rest. So it's not as if one has less rest than the other.
Yeah.
So I think it's not going to matter too much.
Okay.
Yes. And my apologies. It's 6-1. Fritz is 6-1 against Tiafoe.
Okay.
And then, as you know, with Djokovic losing, Alcaraz losing, it really gave a lot of confidence to people that normally wouldn't have it. Taylor Fritz has a horrendous record against Djokovic.
Yeah.
And that probably would have been a matchup for him. So Tiafoe made a statement. And he said, it's not like it once was before. Make it quarterfinal and play Rafa, and you're looking at flights.
Yeah.
That was his statement once he saw that pretty much that the draw was kind of open. What are your thoughts on that?
It's funny. I don't know if you remember. This is probably from our first 50 episodes of this podcast, but Tiafoe made a statement back then.
Oh, yeah. He said that.
Where he said, look, when you see one of the big guys not in the draw, everyone in the draw is at the practice courts with a little different mindset. Because you just feel like the odds are way more in your favor. Everyone plays harder. Everyone plays better because they know they have the odd of maybe getting to a final without having to face Novak, facing Nadal, facing Federer. So I think that what he said way back then is super relevant in this draw here. We're seeing Drapers, Dimonors. We're seeing a lot of the guys that were knocking on that door making big runs.
Right.
For the record, I don't know if you know this yet, but Jannik Sinner beat Medvedev tonight. Okay. So, semifinals are locked.
They are. So, it's going to be Draper versus Sinner, and then the American men.
Fritz
so, guaranteeing an American in the final.
Yep.
So, now let's get to Draper. He is having a dominant U.S. Open.
Yeah,
he was supposed to face Alcaraz in the third round. He did beat him at Queens, so it would have been a matchup.
Yeah.
But once Alcaraz did not make it, he ran with it. He has not dropped a set at this U.S. Open. He is 89-36 games won to lost. So he is dominant right now.
Yeah.
What do you think of Draper?
I have mixed emotions, right? Thought one, can you name one person Draper played that's not named Dimonor?
He played Mahash, Botic.
Okay, so you can. I was hoping you couldn't because I was trying to make a point. But I say all that to say he's played 2 seeds.
Yeah.
He's only played 2 seeds this whole entire draw. He's kind of got the Casper Ruud effect going on. It's not his problem. It's not his fault. He's beating who's in front of him. But it makes me wonder what happens now when you're playing against a guy ranked number 1 in the world, one of the favorites to win, and you haven't really faced hyper premium competition this whole match. Will it work for you or against you? Will short court time work for you? Having confidence work for you? Or will you get startled? Will you get shocked and have to play at a level you haven't had to ascend to this whole tournament? I'm not sure. We've seen this happen to players before, and a lot of times it doesn't work out in their favor. But every once in a while, we do see a player who's much fresher, Marin Cilic.
Yes.
Make it to the final or the semifinal, and he's fresher than his opponent who's been playing tougher people and drained. Although they peaked at a higher level in the tournament, they start to dip because of physical conditioning. So it's going to be interesting to see how him versus Sinner plays out because Sinner's physical condition has been in question.
That is true.
So that's a very interesting semi.
Yes, that is true. And then also you look at the other side of the coin, which is when Alcaraz played 2 straight 5-setters in a row, and then Casper went in fresh as a daisy. So it's the same rest time as well. So
yeah.
The argument could be made of, do you want more court time or the rest time? So
yeah.
And then I didn't want to end with Draper, but the Americans took a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So I will end it with this. Male players born in the 2000s to reach a Grand Slam semifinal, my apologies. Ali Asim has 1. Shelton 1. Musetti 1. Sinner 3. Our new person, Draper, has 1. and probably the future if he can fix the head problems. Alcaraz 6.
Wow.
Do you think that men's tennis is in good hands with the future?
Yeah, absolutely. We have Sinner and Alcaraz alone, which is huge for the future of men's tennis. But a lot of these other guys, they're gonna improve. They're gonna get better at a more traditional rate, because not most players don't just explode on the tour when they're 18, 19 years old like those guys did. So I do think the future's in good hands, and it's nice that we kind of have someone already maintaining stability right now, because this is supposed to be the weak era, in theory. You know,
Right.
Djokovic is finally tapering off. Nadal's tapering off. This is supposed to be when the Andy Roddick Slam gets snatched up, you know? Maybe the Andy Roddick Slam is this U.S. Open and Tiafoe or Fritz become that. We don't know, but it's interesting to see.
Go ahead.
Do you have one more topic or anything?
No.
Okay, I have a final question for you.
Okay, I was going to say you also have Medvedev, who's competing. Zverev is starting to come back, making runs here and there. We'll see if Holger Rune could make a run, but he's there. He's in the top 20. So there's a lot of people right there in the middle that are wanting to make a run.
Yeah. I think tennis is great. It's stable. It's very stable.
I agree.
I'll close it off with just one speculative question. This may age very poorly. We'll find out. Let's assume Sinner beats Draper.
Okay.
Who is the better matchup American to play him in the final? Frances Tiafoe or Taylor Fritz?
Man, that's a tough one. Fritz is more consistent from the back. I don't know. Their serves are kind of equal to me, pace-wise. I do like the fact that Tiafoe tends to be slightly more aggressive with his slice, and he tends to go for more quicker, to whereas Fritz will settle in a backhand exchange until he finds the opening. So, I don't know. That's a tough question, but man, I'll have to go with Fritz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the Fritz choice. But you know what's funny is I like where your head was at, because it's one of those, Fritz is a little more balanced.
Yes.
But I feel like I don't know if that balanced play is going to cut it against a Sinner playing his best tennis.
Correct.
And I think that Tiafoe's more of a disruptor.
Right, X Factor stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
So although I think he's inferior from the ground, maybe neither of them is good enough from the ground anyway.
Yes.
So maybe we lean on the X Factor stuff, right?
Right.
So I don't know. I kind of feel like they have the same odds of winning it, just in different ways. So
Right.
It'll be interesting to find out.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So in that case, that concludes the episode, and I hope you guys were entertained.
We'll see you after the U.S. Open.
With results.